Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another fun and exciting episode of Prepper Talk Radio. I'm Scott, here with Shane and Paris. We're excited to be here with you. Hello, gentlemen. How is life?
Fantastic.
Life is good.
Guys and girls, you do not want to get caught sick. You don't want to get caught in a situation where you do not have antibiotics when you absolutely need them. Make sure you check out Jase Medical. Use the promo code PrepperTalk. That's going to get you $10 off your emergency antibiotics kit. I think every family should have one. It is a fantastic buy. Also, if you missed the Ready Summit, you can check it out at thereadysummit.com. It was fantastic. We're going to talk about that in our next episode in our group, which tells me you need to get in the group if you haven't already gotten in the group. Facebook.com/Prepper Talk Radio to find our page. And from our page, we're linked straight into the group. And you can get live support from us all the time. Wow, what an amazing event. But even more amazing is the insanity of our government trying to strip more rights from our pew-pews who do nothing wrong. They do absolutely nothing wrong, and they're getting punished.
Yeah, your initial question is a bit of a conundrum, right? I mean, you say, "How are you guys doing?" We kind of make our own little worlds, right? I mean, we kind of live in our own little bubbles. We see what we want to see, or don't want to see, and we accept or reject the things that we hear, right? So we see what's going on around there, and a lot of those things don't affect me personally, right? I mean, we're pretty good here where we're at. I mean, we're pretty sheltered. We're not seeing a lot of the stuff that's going on in other parts of the country as well as the world. So when you say, "How are you doing?" Yeah, I'm doing good. And additionally, being prepared and not scared, I can confidently say, yeah, I'm doing good. But, seeing everything out there, it definitely weighs on me when I try and stay in touch with what's going on. You can really see how heavy things are. And if you just turn them off and look outside, look at the mountains, yeah, all is good. All is good, but all is well. But man, you gotta be in it somehow and still say, hey, it's all is well. It's kind of tough for me.
Yeah, it does take a lot of faith to just stay true and faithful to your beliefs, especially, the three of us. We really espouse that Christian belief and the love of God and country and our families. And when you see all the stuff that's really under attack right now, it's literally God, family, and country that's under attack. And wherever you turn, you can't have a religious belief unless you're a terrorist now of some kind, or you can't have a family is being totally attacked, what's a man and a woman, what's a child, what's what are we, what even are we, right? Like this whole thing. And then to have our country under attack too, with so many different things, like our constitution, like, I don't know if you saw, but since the last time we had an episode, the House passed a bill against assault weapons, banning the assault weapons. But thankfully the Senate they're doing their part to kind of keep that in check. So I'm grateful for checks and balances in some of the government's things. But the fact that we're having these things come up, it's like, wait a minute, like, were we not all born in the same country? Did we not all know what the Constitution, we're all under the same Constitution here, right? But it's not true. It's like, it seems to me like some people have a different view of where this country should be going, and than some of the rest of us. And I'm just like, it could be scary.
Oh yeah. There's definitely some weird interpretations of our Constitution, of our rights, and of oversight or overreach, and what's allowed and what shouldn't be allowed and what is allowed. And it's interesting going back to the question, how are you doing? Better than I should be, right? That's an easy way to answer that. I'm better than I should be, or about as good as I can be, considering. We're very blessed, and a lot of you guys listening, you're probably in the same boat where you look at your daily life, you look at the daily strife, and you're feeling really blessed. You're feeling maybe not enough gratitude. Maybe you want to have a little more gratitude. Or maybe you're just right up against the wall and you don't know what to do. Our goal is to help alleviate some of those fears, alleviate some of those frustrations, and let you know that there is a community here that's trying to do the same thing you are and improve everything. but to be positive as much as we possibly can be amongst all the negative.
Be a light in the darkness.
Absolutely.
Shane, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, we kind of went past it, but, one thing I do like that Dave Ramsey says, is he says, someone asked him how he's doing. He said, better than I deserve. I really kind of like that. I don't feel I deserve anything, more than just being able to breathe and eat and whatever. Right. But I kind of like that. I truly feel like that is, I feel better than I deserve. Right. Better than, and I don't want to say that, I feel better than others as well. I don't want to lift myself above others, because I know a lot of people are going through hard times as well. And they would, and I think there is a lot to be said for coming out and say, what, I'm going through something pretty tough right now, and I don't want to burden you with it, but you've got to get things out sometimes, so.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I count it a blessing to have friends like you two that I can do that off air.
Yeah.
I vent to you guys quite a bit of my challenges and frustrations, and I think we do that pretty well, the three of us together. You need that. You need that network. You need that support group. And that's kind of like part of what we're going to be talking about today. Like that's like support, right? Protection. You don't need a safe space. You don't need to find a place on campus where you can do whatever you want to do and no one can hurt your feelings, but you need support. You need a group. You need like-minded individuals around you. There's a quote, and I'm going to misquote it, but I'm going to paraphrase it at the same time. It says, you are a reflection of the 5 people you're around the most. If you want to be a successful person, you've got to associate with people who are far more successful than you are. Your current state is a reflection of the people you're around the most. And, if you're not feeling supported, if you're not feeling connected, you need to look at the people that you're around and maybe improve that group.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept of a safe space, right? An unarmed society is a polite society. So for me, technically, wherever I go, it's a safe space, right? And then you got these universities and other organizations creating a safe space for certain individuals who are, for some reason, which I don't understand, so fragile and so easily offended that they need a safe space.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't get it. Maybe it was just the way I was raised. I'll just stop there. I don't want to offend anybody because I don't understand completely how that works.
Well, 2 generations ago, 18-year-olds were storming the beaches in Normandy. They were lying on paperwork so that they could go and sign up for draft, sign up for military a year early so they could go serve, so they could help other people. And now, to get anyone to think outside of themselves, especially the younger generations, 2 generations, a generation below us, we've really seen, hard times create great men create soft times create weak men or soft men, and soft men create hard times. We've seen that play out. We're seeing that play out. And that just leads to you. The topic for today is self-defense, guns, and how those fit into your preparedness plan. But really, how are you going to take care of yourself and your family and your needs? Security is 100% up to you. Safety and self-preservation is 100% up to you. It's nobody else's responsibility but your own. And you can say, well, the police are going to take care of me. But can they? What's their response time? Do you really want to leave it to chance?
And it's not actually their job to protect us. I mean,
correct.
That's a fact. It's not what they're paid for. They're not paid to protect the public. They're paid to kind of be the mop-up crew, right? That's kind of a rough way or rude way of putting it, I guess. But, I was thinking about what you're saying, Scott, and, I listen to Jordan Peterson on a regular basis, and he says that I think it's upwards of 65% of all men are narcissists. I think that's right, 65, 70, somewhere. It's pretty high, well over above average. And I think maybe that has something to do with them needing a safe space. I don't know. I haven't explored that very much in my mind, but and then also wanting other people to take care of you rather than you take care of yourself. I think that's very narcissistic as well. Why we are this way, I don't know. I'm sure there's many factors. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to get into any of that because I would sound like an idiot. But there's definitely some underlying reasons that I don't want to ignore. They shouldn't be ignored, but definitely not qualified to talk about them. But I am qualified to talk about guns. So let's talk about guns.
So then, jumping into guns, disclaimer for those of you who are listening in or watching in, this is a training, not a real pew pew. It is rubber. It is not wooden like in the other guys. And I'm not a peacock. You got to let me fly. So today we're going to talk about making sure that we're responsible with what we have for our self-defense, right? Making sure we're capable of it, and that we're taking the right steps to know what we're doing with what we have, as well as some proper principles as far as, make sure you're keeping and maintaining your Second Amendment right. Whether you're using them, whether you're carrying them, like make sure you're respecting that and that you're standing up for it. So
I was going to say, I think as a disclaimer, we definitely want to encourage everyone to go out and get formal training.
Yes.
Especially handguns. Start with the handgun, in my opinion. Once you learn that and master that, you can shoot anything, right? But work with someone who is preferably experienced, maybe not just your brother or your cousin, whomever says, hey, I'll go take you to the range. Although I do that all the time. Admittedly, I do that all the time for friends and family. But someone who really knows what they're talking about and can help you avoid mistakes and the things that can get you into trouble, especially if you choose to conceal carry. I mean, that's very, very serious. You should take that very serious. And I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't say everybody, but I think most everyone should choose to conceal carry at some point, just to learn and understand what that's about. We live in Utah where now constitutional carry concealed carry is now legal.
No license required.
Exactly, except for in certain locations, right? You can't go into schools and such without a permit, and certain other areas. But I would definitely highly encourage going the formal route, spending some money, and that's something I resisted when I've been concealed carry for well over 20 years, and I resisted that. Of course, I took my courses, but I self-taught, and there's a lot of great teachers on YouTube and such, and you can learn pretty well that way. But it's definitely the long route.
Yeah.
If you have one-on-one instruction or one-on, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, whatever, where you get a lot more personal attention. It will get you going a lot faster than it took me. For me, it was quite an evolution and process, which I'd love to talk about at some point.
Well, it's interesting. Like you bring that up because it's like I started by going to the range as a kid with rifles in scouting, and our scoutmasters were like belligerent about the rules, and so you were afraid to break the rule, more about them getting on you than you getting shot. And that was, I think, really good because you were hyper aware. And then as I got older, and I got to where I was like, hey, okay, time for me to get my own pistol and rifle and shotgun. And then I lost them in my boating accident.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Just kidding, guys. But getting into those things, it's like I needed to educate myself on proper handling and everything else. And so I've actually taken a few courses. I did a range course, which was a pistol course, and it was just an hour long. And that was amazing, but it still didn't give me the confidence to conceal carry. It was actually conceal carrying that forced me to get comfortable. And a lot of people will not get comfortable until they have done it for a little while. And that's a hard thing, because it's like, you just, for lack of a better term, you've got to pull the trigger. You've got to get the holster inside where it's safe on you and start carrying. And if you've got, the safety on, please always do, right? Until you're using it. Have the safety on. If you don't have a bullet chambered, that wherever you've got to start to get going, get going.
Yeah, it's an evolution. It's definitely an evolution for me. It first started with my dad taking us as young kids out into the woods, right? Putting a 357 Magnum in my hands, no hearing protection. Here, shoot that object across over there, and ears ringing for days after that, right? And then I look back and
pain in your wrist too, probably.
Yeah, yes, quite a bit of recoil especially as a young kid, even though it was a larger revolver. And then, shooting the 30-06 as well. No hearing protection again, And so I'm very much an advocate for hearing protection, not just shooting, but all the time, I would like to have my hearing when I'm old, at least. I don't have my eyes. I don't have good eyes. I need to have good hearing. So,
but you can kick and you can stretch.
I can kick
and you can kick.
And I hope that it stays that way.
Well. Right?
I'll keep working on that. But like you're saying, Scott, absolutely, it's an evolution. When I first started carrying, it's like, everybody's looking at me. Everybody knows I'm carrying, right? No, they don't. It's all in your head. It takes practice. It takes time. And then eventually you get to the point where, okay, I'm going to chamber around and I'm going to keep it, on my waist, tucked on the inside the waistband, tucked in. And at the end of the day, I'll take the round out and stash it and then do it again the next day. So it's quite an evolution. It was for me. It took me probably 10 years before I really started, chambering around and going out into public with a round chambered. And I realized that is actually the responsible thing to do. It's irresponsible not to go out with a round chambered, if, unless you just plan on running the other way. If so, why are you carrying a gun, right?
Well,
there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
And the response time gets longer if you don't have a round chambered. And will you be able to get a round chambered in an emergency situation where you have to defend yourself?
Yeah.
So I petition everyone that's listening, get training. And if you have had training and it has been a while, get more training. If you're not regularly at the range, if you're not regularly practicing, working through either your isosceles or Weaver stances, whatever, school you subscribe to, get used to it and practice and learn and educate. And that's going to make the biggest difference for you in a real scenario. Because if you talk to, like, Jeff Kirkham's one of my favorite guys to talk to about this, because he is trained. And you talk to him about it and he really goes back into muscle memory. And when you get in an actual gunfight, because he has been, it comes down to motor skill and repetition, because your fine motor skills can go away.
It's a perishable, absolutely perishable skill. I think, especially shooting a handgun, it's quite a bit more difficult than learning to shoot a rifle. I mean, I can put my kids in prone position, laying on the ground with their 22 rifles, and they'll hit the target 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
But you get up with a handgun, and it's a completely different story. So my advice, and I guess not getting too deep in the weeds on some of those topics where maybe we're not so qualified to talk about, but maybe give me some recommendations on where to start. I think that's always a good idea. When I'm in a gun shop and I see people looking at guns and I can tell it's their first time, man, I just want to pipe up and say, you need to look at this. You should look at this. You should try this, hold this one. And I have to kind of just step back and let the gun counter guy help out, right? Because I would love to chime in and give my experience on it, because I'm so passionate about it, obviously. And I think you need to be, and if after 20 years you're not, then maybe it's not for you, right? Leave that gun in your nightstand or in your safe or whatever, and take it out once a month or whenever you go shooting, right? But I know Scott and I have had these discussions. I think one time we were sitting at a restaurant and we were talking, okay, what would happen if someone came in the front door? And that's something I do whenever I go anywhere, I'm sitting in a strategically set myself in a seat where I can watch the front door and hopefully the back door as well. And so you and I were talking, well, what if somebody came in that front door? What would you do? Well, the back door is right over here. Boom, we're right out the back door. Okay, that's probably pretty smart. But again, why are you carrying? And
Right.
are you practiced enough? Are you confident enough to where you could help others defend others? Because yes, primarily your concealed carry is to defend you and your family. And if you have a chance to get you and your family out that back door without that guy noticing you, that's probably the best choice, best decision. But you need to make those decisions now. Or are you going to send your family out that back door and then you're going to confront the shooter,
The assailant.
Exactly.
What's interesting, like we went to lunch yesterday or 2 days ago, and I've gotten into the habit where I have to see the entrance, and so I sat in a position where I could, and I realized afterwards I was like,
now my back is to the door.
I should have let you sit there because I wasn't carrying that day. I was like,
and I'm not going to come squeeze next to you. Hey, Scott, let me sit right next to you so I can face the door.
Right.
That was
Had
funny.
Paris been there, you could have done that and it'd have been fine. But, just the two of us sitting there cuddled up on one side of the table wouldn't have been so normal.
I got there a little later.
But coming back to the handgun, it's like you need to practice. You need to get comfortable. Like if you look at what happened at the Greenwood, I believe it was the Greenwood Mall, the shooter there, the shooter came out and began firing, and within about 15 seconds after the shooting began, was engaged and taken out with a handgun 40 yards away.
Yeah, that guy's shot was amazing.
And he hit like 7 out of 10 times or 7 out of 9 times, something like that, at that distance. That's very impressive. That's a trained young man. Yeah, absolutely. Which
tells us we need to continually practice at greater distance with our handguns.
And the question is, could he have run the other way at that distance? I think absolutely he could have. But he made a choice, right? And I think he'd already made that choice before he walked in that mall.
And I think that's one of the choices everyone needs to make when they decide to carry.
Now,
sorry, Paris, you were going to say something.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, for the person brand new who maybe has never shot a gun before or doesn't really understand or know what gun to buy or what gun to get, absolutely go to your first. Look at Google Maps, type in shooting range near me, and go down to the nearest shooting range and walk in there. Most of the people that work at those places, they're not going to shame you. They're going to be super excited that you're in there and that you have some interest in coming and learning more about their passion. And then ask them, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to shoot. They'll take a look at your hand. They'll recommend a particular gun. You rent the gun, you go and you shoot it in the range right there, and you get to feel for it. Before my wife and I bought our handguns, we decided to go shoot several different styles and different types of handguns and get a feel for which ones felt good in our hands, which ones felt good as we fired, and which ones had recoil that we could kind of control a little easier, and which one we felt good. And then once we knew kind of the style of gun that we wanted, then we made a purchasing decision. But before that, we would just rent from the shooting range. And so I think that's a really good first step for somebody who wants to get involved and wants to get to know what to do. I was talking to a lady just the other day, and not to mention the Greenwood Mall issues and scenarios like that. I mean, one of the big reasons why the government's trying to take away our Second Amendment rights is because of all these, so to speak, mass shootings that are coming out. Well, honestly, if more people knew that somebody in that audience had a gun and would probably be willing to use it and take them out, I think that would diminish the desire to go out and have a mass shooting. These people wouldn't. If you're literally taking a gun and you're shooting into a barrel of unarmed fish, so to speak, what's your consequence? But if you're shooting and you're like, wait a minute, somebody could be shooting back at me, you're going to think twice before you go do that mass shooting. But I was talking to a lady the other day, and I shared with her that I do a prepper podcast, and she runs a gun range here in town, and I was going to talk to her about being what the hours were and whatnot. And she said, people today, right now, if they don't have a way to protect their food storage, they don't have a way to protect the things that they have, they're going to find themselves in probably some really bad scenarios. And
Yeah.
so it's important, not that you should be Mr., bazookas and guns and rocket launchers and have a 50 cal sitting out your front window.
What's
but
wrong
you've
with
got
that? Seriously. Maybe not out your front window, but yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying you should have a handgun and a rifle and at least something, because at the end of the day, eventually you're going to need to hunt if it gets bad enough. And so why not have a rifle for hunting? And so these are some fantastic, just really, if you've never shot a gun before, just go down to the local shooting range and rent a gun, rent a lane, and buy, 50, 100 rounds and just practice and see what feels good.
Well, and it's interesting because like a felon can't own a gun anymore. Like that's the current laws, but there's no law against them owning a cannon.
Interesting.
Find a way to protect yourself and your loved ones. Like there's always an alternative. If you're not willing to hold a rifle or a sidearm and to use one, what are you willing to use to defend yourself and your family? It's not about defending your food storage. It's about defending your life.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. And I've heard people say, well, I know who you are now, so I can just come get your food storage and I'm just going to, take it. How are you going to take it? And the thing is people don't understand, like those who are preparing and have been preparing for a long time typically are trained and educated in how to use and how to defend with the guns. And they know their home, they know their layout, they know everything better. So if someone says, hey, I'm going to come and take it, the question then becomes, do you really value my stuff more than your life? Because that's what it's going to come down to. Because my stuff preserves my family's life. And by saying you're going to take that, you're telling me you're going to kill my family. At the end of the day, that's as simple as I can make it. That's as black and white as it is. They are claiming that they're going to come murder you. That is intent. You need to defend yourself. Whatever means necessary, you need to defend yourself and your family.
Yeah, and I think self-defense is protection of life, liberty, and property. So definitely.
There's the commandment, thou shalt not steal, right? So God obviously believes in personal property and ownership of properties. So if there is a commandment to not steal, then there's also a commandment to protect what you have, to take care of what you have, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Oh, I agree.
But hey, I was also going to say, we talk about, okay, get yourself, I think the handgun is the place to start. Yes, rifles are easier to shoot. They're harder to conceal and you can't always have one with you. So I think a handgun is the place to start. Whether it's on your person and it's in a bag, it's in your car, whatever. That's my opinion and my experience. Although I think it's important to have other tools as well, long guns. I think those are very important to have. Handgun is kind of a way to get yourself back to your rifle. I mean, that's kind of the hardcore rifle guy's stance on is I have my pistol so I can get back to my rifle, since I can't always have my rifle on me in the grocery store and such, right? So the question is, what kind of handgun do you pick? And and like you're saying, Paris, to try and figure out what fits your hand best, what you can shoot best, you should go to these gun ranges, and they usually have a whole bunch of guns that you can shoot and try and see how they feel in your hands. It is obviously nice to take somebody with you that knows what they're doing, can help you learn about each handgun and why it may or may not be good for you. I purchased probably 5 or 6 pistols before I settled on the ones I carry every day. So it's very much a learning process. And even my daughters, they decided what they wanted. We bought those for Christmas, and they've since switched. So it is a process. So it's kind of like, I guess, if you're a motorcycle person, right? You buy a motorcycle and you realize this isn't quite what I want. It's fun, but it's not quite what I want. So a lot of motorcycle owners own even dozens of motorcycles over their life, right? The same with the handgun. Very personal choice. It's got to fit in your hand, right? You got to be able to shoot it properly. I love to make recommendations based on what has worked well for me. But it's definitely very personal. But my recommendation, I can recommend a brand, is go as big as you can. As big as you can carry, big as you can conceal. for me, 9mm is the way to go for a lot of reasons, but also either subcompact, compact, or full size, which they're easier to manipulate, easier to shoot, rather than a pocket pistol. Pocket pistol, they're very small, hard to hit anything with it. They're not very accurate. They're very small, hard to manipulate.
Yep.
They're fun. They can fit in your pocket. You can take them places you can't take your full size. And you have to dress the part. If you're going to carry a full size gun, you got to have pants with belt loops, and you got to have a belt on there, and you have the right gear, everything to be able to carry that. But that's what I've decided on, and I've changed my wardrobe to accommodate that as well. Have the right holsters, and don't cheap out on the holsters. Spend a lot of money on a holster. Get a really good quality holster, because one of the most important part about having a gun is being able to draw it and conceal it quickly and securely. If you have a cheap, crappy holster, it's just not possible.
Well, and then also making sure it's something you can comfortably wear.
Yes.
Right.
If it's not comfortable, you're not going to wear it.
Yeah, there are certain holsters that just hurt. They'll dig into your hip. It's just not the right. They're not cushioned.
Usually the cheap ones.
Yeah. Spend a little extra money. Get the one that's super comfortable. Get the one that actually it'll hold your gun even if you're doing a handstand, right? Mm-hmm. It'll hold your gun even if you're riding on a roller coaster. Like, it will keep it secure until you remove it.
And you may need multiple kinds of holsters, whether inside the pants, outside, all different kinds like that. Shoulder, Miami Vice shoulder carry. If you got a winter coat on, maybe that's the best way. If you're in the winter and you got to wear a lot of layers and it's quicker to reach the Miami Vice style, that just takes a lot of learning.
Right. Yeah. If you're wearing a suit, that may be the best.
That may be a better way too.
Right. If you're in, Miami and you're wearing a suit, just remember to pull your sleeves up part way and let your mullet grow and
roll them.
Whiten your teeth. Make sure
you got to wear your chain. You wear your chains too.
Crockett and Tubbs,
button down the shirt.
But it all comes down to make it comfortable, make yourself comfortable, and make it easier to do. Easier to get your gun into stance, at the ready, lined up, and then practice. Not just practice at the range. Shane got me starting to practice at home. So that's why I have, for example, my dummy pistol. Like, I will use this around the house and practice. I'll use training that I got from Stan Pruitt, for example, and other training from Jeff Kirkham, and I'll do things like slicing the pie. If that's something you're not familiar with, go check our videos. There's stuff we've talked about that in the past in our archive, but you can also just Google it and find out what slicing the pie means. And it's not like key lime pie, guys. It's slicing the pie. It's and there's also dynamic entry to get into a room. But like, when you're doing home protection versus I'm at a mall and there's a shooting, the game changes a little bit, but the engagement remains the same.
And one thing we talk about an awful lot is the rules of 3, right? So 3 minutes without air is obviously no brainer. 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without food, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, right? But then right next to that, you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a triangle, right? And on the bottom would be all those basic needs of food, water, and shelter. And then the next tier up is it's a number of things on his pyramid, but the next one is safety. So safety could mean a lot of things. It could be a safe place, but it's self-defense, self-protection. So it is right up there with food and water. And of course, like we've mentioned, you got to be able to protect your resources, your assets for when that time comes. But and also we mentioned, an armed society is a polite society. If you go around like think Wild West and everybody's walking around with their 6 shooters hanging out, everybody is saying, okay, everybody's on the same level, right?
Yeah,
it's the great equalizer, as Colt said. It was Colt, right? Yeah, the Colt is God made man and Colt made man equal, right? And especially if you're a small individual, whether you're woman or man, and you can easily be overpowered, learn how to use a handgun. I tell you, it's very empowering. It gives a lot of confidence, and it takes a long time. So you might as well get started now. And if you have a handgun and you haven't really done anything with it, decide to take the next step and say, okay, what is my next step? Am I going to carry? Am I just going to go out and shoot some more and practice to be more confident with my aim? Practice manipulating. And like you're saying, Scott, at home, I do a lot of dry fire practice where I'm holstering, I'm unholstering it, practicing very intentionally, bringing that up and extending and pulling the trigger, dry firing it, and then reholstering it, and just practicing over and getting that muscle memory. And that's a whole nother video. That's more training, and I'm not qualified to do that training anyway. But there are plenty of great instructors out there that can do that, and it's a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy that as well as just having the confidence to defend myself, and regardless where I'm at.
Yeah, and there are tools to help make that easier. There are dummy rounds like these.
Right? Got to practice your misfires, your loading, your
And then there are also ones that are sighting ones that you can also use to see where you would be shooting. That when you pull the trigger, it'll actually pop the light. You can see where you would have shot.
A lot of great tools out there. Yeah,
a lot of great tools. So find what.
There's that cool one. There's that cool tool that they just came out with recently. My dad was telling me about it. It's literally a target that you can put across your room, and then you put like a laser bullet in there. It's a dummy bullet with a laser, and you pull the trigger, and it'll actually shoot the laser at that target, and then register where you would have shot on the target, and then put it back on your app on your phone to let you know how accurate you were at the target. So it's a neat way to do target practice without blowing through a lot of rounds. And I don't know how long the listener, if you're a listener for a while, that prices of rounds have gone up and down and all around in the last couple of years. And thankfully they're down from where they were, but they're still up from where they were too.
They're higher than they should be,
but lower than they were.
Yeah.
But it can be expensive to go to the shooting range and just, firing, practicing. So these companies, for, I don't know, 175, 80, 180 bucks, you can buy one of these target practice things, and you can practice unlimited for the rest, just one time, and you have that app on your phone and the target that's placed out there, and you just shoot and fire away, and tons of practice. That's I'm going to get one of those for sure.
Well, let me tell you that some of the most fun drills I've ever done are with a shotgun. I tell you, get online and look up some shotgun drills, and that is literally a blast with a shotgun. It is a lot of fun. Pun intended. A lot of fun to learn those shotgun drills of loading, because obviously with a shotgun you have very limited capacity, right? Each round is devastating, and aiming is a little easier than handgun, but you've got to learn how to quickly put more rounds into the chamber, more tactical reloads and such, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, and also understanding what different types of rounds will do.
Whether it's first shot or double aught or buckshot or slugs or whatever.
So
or dragon's breath.
Dragon's breath. No, you can go Google that one too. But making sure you understand what you have and what its capabilities are is the most important thing before you go engage. And again, safety first. Never point a weapon loaded or unloaded unless you know that you're ready to destroy whatever it's aimed at. You just do not, even joking around. I don't even like, it's funny because I don't even like kids having toy guns anymore. I would rather just teach them how to use a real gun, keep them away from the toy guns. Just because it gives a false sense of, it's not going to hurt anybody.
Well, it's a Nerf gun, right? You can shoot somebody in the eye; it's not going to hurt. But yeah, it definitely teaches some bad habits.
Yeah. So I think as we close out this episode, reminder: like, no matter what you're doing, make sure you're educating yourself on that topic, on that area, and increasing your skill the right way, and creating proper good habits as opposed to bad habits. Please take that extra time to actually learn from experts. Find local experts. Like Paris said, gun ranges, they're almost always have really good courses that you can participate in, or can connect you with someone who can give you private training. It is paramount to improving your skill, improving your survivability, and really helping you understand what you have in your hands and what you can do with it.
I think remember that a firearm is a tool. That's really all it is. It's a tool. And just like in my toolbox on my workbench, I have multiple tools for multiple purposes, right? Each tool can't do what another tool is designed for. Same thing as with firearms. That's why there are so many different types of handguns and shotguns and rifles, 22, 9mm, 357, 5.56, 223, 308, 338 Lapua, 50 BMG. That's why there's so many different guns and rounds out there. If you start to educate yourself on this, not for me, as I mentioned to you guys, I've gotten into motorcycling, and I'm learning all about different bikes and why there's so many different bikes and why people like these and why they don't like. It's all kind of the same thing, right? And once you get into that world, your eyes begin to open up and say, okay, I think I kind of understand why there's gun nuts, why there's people who are, motorcycle nuts. I think it really opens that world and those possibilities, but it also narrows things down for me too. Whereas I start to look at this wider picture, and then I can say, okay, no. And then it narrows me down to, okay, these are the tools that I need to defend my family, to protect my home, to protect my property. And the others I don't necessarily need. They'd be fun, like a 50 BMG. I love shooting a 50, but man, it's at $5 to $10 a round and a very expensive rifle. I don't need one. I would like to have it, but there's a lot of other priorities. So, and kind of the same again with motorcycles. You look at everything and you narrow it down, and you think life becomes more complex, but then it becomes more simple. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody.
Makes sense to me.
It makes total sense. It's just like in prepping. When you jump into prepping, this huge field of array of options opens up, and you're like, whoa! And then as you realize, and as you learn, that wide array of things actually narrows down to what's really right and what's essential. So stick with us so we can help you find what's right and what's essential. You guys, it's fantastic to go and learn these things. It's fantastic to go empower yourself and give yourself that leg up from where you currently are to where you can be in confidence, in skill, and in ability. So remember, please educate, learn. There's nothing more important in prepping than skills and knowledge.
Yep.
Build them, gain them, or lose them.
Amen.
And that's going to do it for today. Guys, remember, like, subscribe, join our group on Facebook, follow us on all of our social media channels. We're pretty much everywhere. And if you find a site that has something cool that you want, just try the code Prepper Talk. All one word, Prepper Talk. If it gives you a discount, fantastic. But if not, at least you tried. That's how we support ourselves doing the show is we set up affiliate links to different products, such as the Jase Medical antibiotics kit or the Ready Summit, other products like Blackbeard fire starters. Just use the promo code Prepper Talk and it will help support our show while also getting you better prepared. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to catch you on the next one. Stay safe, stay prepped.